All right, here's your brief definition of indentured servitude, which is found in the APUSH Curriculum Period 2. A system in which a person agreed to labor for a specific period, usually 4 to 7 years, in exchange for a paid passage from Europe to America and room and board upon arrival. Stay tuned till the very end to make sure you fully understand the significance of this term for the APUSH curriculum. So, indentured servitude often was put into play through the headright system. This is where land would be distributed to settlers based on each head who settled in the colonists. So, for example, someone may pay for 3 other adults to come and be given 50 acres of land in exchange for paying for their passage. And then additionally, that person would get the free labor of that person who they paid for, or those 3 people, for a period of 4 to 7 years. After completing the contract, indentured servants would be given their freedom and freedom dues. This could be wages, land, it could be a variety of things, but it would have been spelled out in the contract that they agreed to. But up until the 1640s, the majority of indentured servants, over 50%, died before their period ended. They died from starvation, from exposure, from the challenges of the environment, disease, a whole variety of reasons, but it was not a good experience. And the majority of those who did survive, so over 50% of those who did survive, were not given their freedom dues. So, of the whole group of people who came, less than 25% were actually surviving to the end of their indenture and getting their freedom dues. They worked in a variety of settings. So, in the southern or Chesapeake colonies, they may be more likely to be agricultural laborers, but in New England, they may be more likely to work in a town as an apprentice of some sort. They cost initially about half as much as an enslaved African, and so early on, they were the preferred type of laborer in most of the colonies. So there was a shift away from indentured servitude that really began in 1680. So you can see in 1680, that's the last year that there are more indentured servants than there are enslaved Africans. And it's because the number of people wanting to come as indentured servants was lessening after 1660. So there were letters that were sent back home to England from indentured servants where they described their treatment, how horrible it was, and that just caused less people to sign up for this system. And there was an event called Bacon's Rebellion, which was really an example of like a class war where some former indentured servants and others led a rebellion against the Governor Berkeley of Virginia. And there was a lot of conflict. Jamestown was burned to the ground, and it really illustrated the class differences that were beginning to develop between the wealthy and the poor, and many of the elite planters began to fear future uprisings from indentured servants. And so they began to desire enslaved Africans instead because they would have been able to enforce more hostile restrictions upon them than they would have been able to do with their counterparts, with other white Europeans. So the significance here, the English colonies were settled through a variety of means and by a variety of people. The system of indentured servitude fueled early migration for those who couldn't afford it. It paved the way for other types of forced unpaid labor. And the difficulties with the system ignited the demand for enslaved Africans. So I hope this video was helpful for you for really quickly understanding indentured servitude. If so, please like and subscribe.